Hello guys. Now that we have printed out our status code, the response headers and the response body, it's time to verify the status code in rest assured. I have navigated back to the rest assured code. So far we have created a request and sent it to the server. We received a response for it. We retrieved the status code, the headers and the body from the response we received. And after retrieving the status code, headers as well as the body, what we went next was to print out each of them individually. And now what we are going to do next is basically go on to assert them. Why do we need to assert them? Is to validate if the status code that we are receiving from the server is the one that we are actually expecting. When we write our tests, it is very important for us to validate these status code headers or the body that we are receiving as a part of our test. And hence it is important to understand how these assertions work. To understand these assertions, what we will be using is the JUnit dependency. We have already imported it. It is the latest dependency with the version 5.6.2, and that's what we are going to use for our assertions. We will initially comment out the code we have written for printouts since we no longer need them. And there I have commented it out. My next step will be invoking the assertions class. This assertions class is a utility which contains the assertion methods that we need for our testing. We are using the assert equals method, which is available in the assertions class, and we will be comparing our expected output, which is 200, that is the status code that we are expecting from our test, with the one that we get from the server. We have already captured the status code of the response in our status code variable, so let's use that one. We have finished writing the assertion code to test if the status code is the one that we are expecting from the server, and next we will run this code. One thing to note over here is that if the assertion fails, an error will be printed out in the console of the application. I run as Java application, and there we see we did not receive any error and the code got executed successfully. This proves to us that the status code we received from the response is the one that is equivalent to 200, the one that we were expecting. Now that we have verified the assertions pass when we have the same expected and the actual outcome, it's time to try out a negative case and see if the assertions work in a negative case as well. And to do that, I will quickly change the resource URL. I will write some random value over here. Ideally, I should be expecting is that error is thrown in the console for the failed assertion. I run the code again, and there it shows that the error is thrown in the console where the expected value was 200, but of course it received a 404 that is not found because this particular resource URL that I am hitting to with my request is not available on the server. This confirms that the assertion code we have returned to assert the status code we receive as a form of response is correct, and at the same time, if there is any change in the status code we receive from the server, the assertion fails, giving us an error message in the console.